I'm Danny Hicks. Welcome to the Not So Secret Agent podcast, where we learn from top real estate agents how they maintain a thriving business, all while living the good life. George Raptis, welcome to the Not So Secret Agent podcast. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate you.
Hey, I love being here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this. Yeah, let's get right into it. I mean, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I'm really excited to learn some of this stuff. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in real estate.
I was in college, and there was a family member who was building homes, and he did higher end homes. And they had this thing called the Parade of Homes, where there's 8, 9, 10 builders that come in and showcase their biggest and best products available. They do a preview night where ticket costs, you have to be an invitation, ticket costs are a little bit higher, and we have an opportunity to really meet some of the big stars in our area. And I got to shake hands with some of the people I thought at 17, 18 years old that I would never have an opportunity to meet. And I became a little starstruck, I guess. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm socializing with the elites in Fort Wayne, and the guy who owns all the Pizza Huts, and all these different people, the car salesmen or owners of the dealerships. And I really just became interested in that. So it wasn't necessarily the houses; it was the people that I was getting an opportunity to meet and talk to that really triggered that. I did want to finish up my college education. Actually, I did. My parents made me. And so I ended up finishing up with an economics degree from Indiana University. And I worked with the family business for a few months. And this was, I wanted to give it a shot.
That's funny because I have a degree in finger painting, essentially, art education, which
Yep.
was thanks, Mom, thanks, Dad. They both listen, by the way. They're like the main core of my audience. Yeah, so that's funny. And I definitely came from a new construction background. My family was a builder also. And they were like, yeah, your hammer is waiting when you get back from college. And I think it's still there because I have not checked on it. Like,
Yeah.
I've never looked back. What did you do before you got into real estate? Just college then?
Just college. Yeah, that was it. So I went to school and jumped right on in.
So you come out of school and did you work for the family as far as selling your uncle's homes or your family members' homes?
Well, no, because I wasn't good enough yet. Yeah, he's dealing with high-end products and high-end homes, and I kind of needed to earn my way through that to earn that position to work with him. So I just kind of started doing, I think, what everybody does is talking to the brokerages and trying to team up with, at least have conversations with somebody. Teams wasn't a thing 21 years ago when I started. So
Right.
It was, everyone just kind of helped each other. And I went and tried to tell as many people as possible I was a realtor. So after a few years, I got the opportunity to work with a villa section that he was working on at the time. So I got to meet, that age group, that demographic, and that where it started, basically really duplicating, becoming financially viable.
You were the one person I've met. Normally, when I meet somebody who's like, yeah, I went straight into real estate, like they went and worked for a family member. My mom was a top producing realtor, and then I just took her over. Well, that's normally what you hear. So I love that you like had to, start at the bottom floor and do it the hard way,
Yeah.
and eventually you earned your way up into that. In my family, if it doesn't happen in Virginia Beach, it didn't happen. Like I can be the biggest realtor in Richmond, don't matter. Like it just that's how they are, which I think is funny. So I'm definitely relating completely to that. What's your why? Why? I mean, 21 years ago, you're 17. You wanted to meet all the cool people, but I mean, now you're a little bit further down the road, and I'm sure that's changed.
Yep. I have, obviously, the why financially is we have, a family. I have 3 children and a wife who, love and support me and have for the last 20 years and doing what I have found I love to do. The biggest thing is there's really two. One, a sentimental version is where my grandparents all immigrated here from Greece on
Hmm.
both sides of the family, and I saw the struggle. They made it. They did the best that they could, and raised they had 5 kids on each side of the family. So I have lots of aunts and uncles and first cousins, and I often reflect and say I owe it to them for their struggles, for their life decision of leaving what they knew as home, come here to try to establish something that's more important and better for their kids.
Hmm.
And I don't want to take that for granted. So that's a real deep version of my why is I have the ability. Someone made some sacrifices to give me this opportunity. So I'm going to do it.
That's so funny. You're so a brother from another mother because we came from Italy, same story, same. I think I'm the third generation here. But yeah, and went into construction and all of that stuff. But that's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
Like they're literally leaving. Like it will not be a better life for them here, but for your parents and and you and your kids, absolutely, it's a better life. So it's a big sacrifice on their end. So I fully agree with that, and I love that. Why I feel like, yeah, I can relate to it. We'll put it that way.
That's
What's
awesome.
your team structured look like now? What are you
Um, I
managing?
have I have 4 agents along with me, so we have a total of 5 salespeople. We
Hmm.
have a team manager who handles a lot of higher end projects, assists with double or verifying CMAs, getting not just our listing packets together because we have an admin. Her role is more high level, kind of an extra agent on the team. She's licensed. She had been practicing real estate for about 10 years. Didn't love the business side of real estate, but loved all the fun stuff, the $1 million listing type activities of getting homes ready and that type of thing. So we have her. We have her name's Carrie, and then we have Brooke, who's an admin, and she also shares in with some of the marketing as well. So social media side of things. We have a shared transaction coordinator with some other people in the office, and then we also have a runner for signs, lock boxes, brochures, dropping off, some gifts and things like that when we need
So that is that
urgency.
shared too? That role, the runner?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
You would need a lot of running to pay a full time runner. You know what I mean?
100%.
Um, what are some of the nuances? Like, what are you seeing like in this? Because this is a trickier market. So we're all doing calls, notes, and pop buys. But who are you calling? And kind of, do you find that you have a particular client base or a particular anybody that you're chasing, or is it just kind of like the people you run across, past clients, that sort of thing?
My, I mean, obviously working with Brian Buffini for the last 15 years,
Hmm.
we have grown accustomed to creating relationships and working with past clients. And I mean, I hate the word past clients because they're still clients of ours, just clients that have had a transaction with us in the past, I guess is maybe a better way to
Hmm.
say it. Um, I guess my trick or my thinking behind it is I want to be able to call you just as I'm calling a client, or if I'm
Hmm.
calling a friend or a family member. The conversations all exist the same.
Hmm.
It's allowing so I'm digging deeper in just to the relationships. I guess if that's been over the changing climate over the last 12 months or so, is just digging deeper into the relationships, but also making myself available to serve more people and let them know that, hey, I am wanting your business, and continuing. So a focus of adding more people to the database being upfront. And as real estate gets more difficult, I would hate to think this, but there could be a possibility that some agents are becoming a little bit more self-serving versus offering the advice that their clients really need to hear. And with the seller climate, for example, of 3.5% interest rates, and putting up a home that maybe is in A plus condition and expecting A plus pricing, having some of those conversations and watching
Hmm.
these homes sit on the market, for months and months. I just feel like, hey, if I was the first person to be able to get in there and make a difference and show them what it really, just the facts of things, and having the experience and understanding of what it's going to take to sell a home in this market or to purchase a home in this market, that's really what I'm looking to do.
Yeah, I found that a lot of, like you mentioned it, like our fiduciary duty is to our past clients, for lack of a better term. And as fiduciary, sometimes we have to, in this particular market and the way things are, we literally have to be willing to say, hey, look, you moving right now doesn't make sense. I know that, a bigger bedroom or, a home office would be really appealing, but this is almost a lateral move and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars a month. You should probably stay put for now, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
um, I found my business, we were re-gearing a little bit to people who had to move, right? The people who just want to, that's not a good decision for them. The people who had to, like a first-time home buyer, absolutely, no matter what the interest rate is, you should buy, because
Mhm.
until you do, you have not frozen the market, right? Meaning, like where I'm at, we're in Richmond, Virginia, is the third fastest appreciating city in the country right now, which means 3 years ago our prices were 50% cheaper, 45. But you get the picture. The sooner you buy, the sooner you freeze that market, meaning you'll sell and have that money. Do you find that you're concentrating on people that need to buy and sell, or nothing has changed? Just business as usual, staying in front of everybody, and the people who raise their hand, you're helping them, or are you?
So there's my ideal client is more of the buy and upgrade homes.
Mhm.
That's just kind of the market, my database of what I've worked on specifically. So showing that, hey, prices aren't still on the upward trend. We have stabilized, and this is going to be a little bit of the upper end market.
Mhm.
And that goes into a conversation of, hey, if you want to push up your average sales price or deal with homes of more than average value, you need to have conversations that exist in that upper end market,
Mhm.
whether it is their upgrade, whether what are they doing with their home equity, are they looking to become an investor, are they how are they using their money to again put it to work.
Mhm.
So the move up buyer is just who I enjoy the most and probably offer the most. And it's having those conversations of what it is that you really want. And like you said, yeah, interest rates aren't going to make us move, but
Right.
life will, and we're only going to be stable for as long as we truly want it to be until we're ready.
Yeah. So essentially, you're still moving. You're still looking at the move up buyer, just maybe looking a little harder at whether it makes sense for them to move or not.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
then if they have equity, kind of having that conversation about how they can utilize that, essentially maybe an investment property or something of that nature.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we should walk into any, first-time home seller, as an agent, we should also have the mindset of, should I buy this house? And if not, should they keep this house as a potential investment? They're going to take what the $100,000 worth of equity. What they're going to do? They're going to put it down on the house that they're purchasing, and it's basically just a transfer of funds. And if they can afford that $700 or $750 payment, that's a little bit higher from the lack of the down payment, but they have an investment property that could really continue to
Hmm.
yield and appreciate. And that's the market that we're seeing here in Fort Wayne continue to rise. The bottom is rising faster than the top numbers. So, having that's there. But yeah, no, I think it's always a good time to buy. And I know that it's kind of walking into a stylist and saying, hey, do I need a haircut? They're always going to say, yeah. But if they have a desire to move, should I have them wait a year when interest rates drop? However, the prices of homes continue to rise. So, you know, it's a balance of things. And if it's the right
Sure.
time, that's really kind of what it is. Is it the right time? Are you ready to go through what it takes to get your home ready to sell and to put yourself out in the marketplace right now to find the home that you truly need?
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're kind of just looking at their individual picture, saying, "Hey, here's you know, basically assessing, do they have everything it takes to move," which is what we're always doing. I mean, nothing has changed there, because you can
Mhm.
have all the money, you can have the reason to move, but if emotionally you're not there, you're not going to do it. It's just a matter of, like, taking their temperature, seeing where they're at, and then kind of helping them do what's best for them.
Absolutely. Remove the fear. And that's really what it is. And the only way we can remove our fear is by asking the right questions. What is it that they're
Yes.
really concerned about? So stay curious in the conversations that you're having so you can best lead them and give them the information they need to make an educated decision. It's it's all it is.
So, yeah, no, I love that. And we were talking a little bit about how you got started. What's one tip you might give to a new agent that's just getting into the system?
Oh, I would most likely I'd have them join a team of some sort. At least, get the mentorship that you need. It's going to excel your opportunities forward. And the second thing is get to work. If you need 50, 60, 70 hours of open houses and door knocking or calls or whatever it takes, don't be afraid to ask people for business because people want to know
Hmm.
you want their business. I don't leave a listing appointment without saying, I want to be the agent that lists your home. I say it each and every time I walk out of the door as I'm shaking their hands goodbye. And I want them to know that I want their business. And I think that's intriguing to people. And people are going to choose people based on their expertise of some sort. So having a new agent, be able to use the resources and the opportunities that the team may provide for them,
Hmm.
and hopefully have some accountability, create some work ethic. That's really what it is.
Do you find like scripts, or would you do any of that with them as far as dialogues, or you go straight to like, hey, man, these are the ways to generate business. Pick one, let's go get it.
I guess the scripts and dialogues, they typically get a bad rap. I enjoy them quite a bit. I never use the same sentence, I guess maybe twice. Maybe I do, but almost often it's personalized. But they're just questions that are asked in different forms to get better answers.
Okay.
That's been the big thing for me.
I like that. Give me an example of some of the questions that you might use. Like,
Well,
you
we
know,
hear today what the common market today is, hey, what are going on with interest rates?
yeah,
So my go to every single time is, hey, we could probably find something from 5 to 8%. It really just kind of all depends. Why are you asking?
oh, I like that. And then you turn that around. It's kind of like when they say, how is the market? You know,
100%.
yeah, how would you answer that one?
How's the market? I usually depends on what I'm looking for, whether it's buyers or sellers. So if someone says, "Hey, how's the market?" Say, you know what, it's still an amazing time to be the seller. There are still limited inventory, so buyers are still out there. They're still needing homes in order for you know what, Danny, do me a favor. If you know anyone in the Fort Wayne area that's moving here, or that you have family or anyone in this area, I think they owe it to themselves to explore the possibility of selling a home because they are still in control of a lot of the dynamics here.
I usually go with, that really depends on a lot of things. I mean, whether you're buying or selling, that's kind of the joke, and you could leave it there. But I usually go, the market is kind of spotty, meaning there's some areas that are hotter than others. Is there a particular area you're interested in? And 99 out of 100 times, that answer is their house. And then you can say, hey, look, let me take down your address and I'll get you specific information. I mean, I can talk vaguely about it. And at this point, they're raising their hand and asking me to give them value on their house.
Yeah,
So now we're having substantial real estate conversations based off of them bumping into me in the grocery store. And you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I like that because I think that when you ask them for that specific information, they're kind of, they, they're going to do it to be nice. No matter what, they're going to give you that information. And then
hmm,
you follow up and see if that interest is really there. Because the truth is always what people are interested in is themselves, which is why I love your asking questions and asking the right questions. Because if you can get down to that information and boil it down, um, like I think that's awesome. I think that's really one. They walk away saying George was a really interesting guy. Two, you walk away with all the information you need to maintain that relationship. Um, if only we could record those conversations the way we record the podcast, because that's one of the reasons why I do this. Like I get to talk to high end people, and no notes are as good as the podcast. I have it on video, I have the audio, and you can go back and listen to it, and you just learn so much. So I think that's really cool. Um, I'd like to keep going on the question thing. I think that's cool. I think
yeah.
you, you, you're walking into like basically a listing appointment, and they're asking silly things like, what do you think it would sell for? Is you know, is there a question that you would redirect that, or you would just go, yeah, here 200,000 or 400,000, whatever. We're just picking numbers.
It typically you know whether or not somebody is shopping or wanting to kind of get an idea. We always want to give the upfront. So if I'm walking into a listing appointment, someone asks me what is what do you think, off the cuff, what do you think the number is? And say, you know what, the thing that I don't do is I don't really do a whole lot of educating about your home until I actually get here, because each home is so unique and offers, different advantages. Obviously, you've put your home together, you've taken care of it, you've done all the right things. And what I need to do is go back and be the professional you expect, to make sure that I run the comps and I take a look to make sure you're getting the most value available. So I don't even want to throw out a number, because if I have to show up with a number, I'm going to count on the lower end, because not everybody takes care of your home like you do. So, it buys me a little bit of time. It reinforces and, everything that they've been working on to improve their house is going to be a benefit there. And then I have it depends. Are you asking what the market's willing to pay or what the appraisal's willing to pay? There's two different numbers there that sometimes we have to, battle between the two. And my job as a real estate agent isn't to tell you exactly what your home is worth. It is to let you know what I think the market's willing to pay.
Right. So you don't say academically an appraisal would come in at this, but the market may be a little more, a little less. When you give a price, do you give a range, or do you give like more specific, hey, you should list for this?
I typically, yeah, it's a price range. Sometimes I break them into two or three different numbers to be a little bit more specific. So, 315, 300, 285, just off the cuff, those types of things. And say it just really kind of depends on the motivation and the time frame that you have available. So if you're telling me that, hey, we have a certain time frame, we want to make sure that we get the kids into school. And the best part about today's market, even as we quote unquote struggle, we can't undersell your house anymore. We just can't. There's too much competition out there, and the market's going to tell us right away whether or not we're priced too high, or what strategy do you prefer and want to try.
I was going to say, I always found that the most successful transactions I've ever had is when the agent and the seller are on the same side. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm in danger of being fired immediately based off of knowing a number that we can't know because the market changes every single day, that's just not a good spot for the seller to be in. Like, I need to be able to be aggressive, within reason. Mm-hmm. You're hiring me to get the most money possible. And, this is where I think, because keep in mind, we're going after projected numbers. It's not a static thing. Like, we're throwing to where the receiver will be if he keeps going at that pace. Now, if the market shifts under our feet, that's like, it's our job to identify that. It's our job to make the pivot that we need to make in that strategy, but you need to be able to be aggressive on that strategy, and you're not aggressive if there's not a chance that you could miss it.
Yeah, I mean? and exactly. And I tell everybody at the end of, hey, these numbers may change. So if we're 60 days out or 30 days out, there's some dynamics that could change, and we might be being able to push your price a little bit higher, or we may have to hold steady. So right before we put the sign in the yard, we're going to redo all the numbers again. We're going to make sure that any new comps that came on to help support our price. This is always going to be fluid. And look, Danny, I don't want to disappoint you 3 months from now. I just want us to have possibly that conversation today. So that's why it's important for us to establish what I think that the market's willing to pay for your home.
And that's the other big thing. I don't dictate the price, and you don't dictate the price. The market dictates the price. Mm-hmm. It's what somebody's willing to pay, and then what the bank will lend them to actually pay it. Yeah. If they've got cash, that's great. And on the higher end, they do. You're not as locked into those comps. I can't tell you how many people I've had that conversation with. I'm like, I understand. I think it's worth that. And you do, and so does the buyer. But if the bank won't lend them the money, there's not much we can do, which is why comps matter. Because I've had some people tell me, oh, I don't care about the comps because my house is this. And I'm like, well, that's great. But do you think that they have cash? And do you think they're willing to pay more than the bank says it's worth? Maybe.
Yep.
And this market's a little different because it is super competitive still, right?
Yep.
Which is, it's definitely a lot more fun to be on the seller side than the buyer side now.
Yep. And typically, if it gets to that point where we're having a super difficult conversation and say, okay, we're negotiating $25,000, and I'm going to say, hey, look, I want to make sure, because you're paying me for two things: to get buyers through this door and to negotiate this contract at the best of my ability for your representation. That's ultimately, we scale it down as a listing agent. That's what you are expecting from me, and that's how I earn my commission. So the difference is that, if we do come into a $20,000 or $25,000 bubble or difference there, how is that truly going to affect our next move? Where I would assume, again, you're going to take that $25,000 down, you're going to put it on the down payment towards the new house. And, we're talking, what is that? $42 a month that is going to cost you while you live in this house, instead of and getting in sooner than what someone else will, which that $42 a month, extrapolate that over the next 3 or 5 years, the equity and the appreciation you're going to earn in the house, that $42 is nothing.
So yeah, you're taking them back to their why. Why do you want to move? You said that you want the kids in the new school. Would you pay $42 a month for them to be in the right school?
Mm-hmm.
You would. Okay, well then there's the answer. One
Yeah,
way or the other. Yeah, I like that. I mean, you're always going to bring them back to their why, and that's where getting into the questions. Did you ever the ninja selling stuff? Have you ever looked at that at all?
I mean, I haven't. I keep hearing a little bit more and more and more about it, but I haven't.
That one is like, it's more technical than Brian gets into, but he's all about asking the question. So they'll say, like, and this is on a buyer intake, and it's just a good example. So you'll sit down with them. They'll say, I want 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, whatever. And you'll say, well, why do you want 4 bedrooms? And maybe they'll say, hey, look, 3 kids and us. Maybe they'll say a guest room, but maybe they'll say an office. And you go, well, wait, if it had a basement that may have a room that could be a good office, or it had a study downstairs. But that gets back to what you were saying. Like, you want better information, you want better leads, ask better questions, right?
Yeah.
When we get the referral, instead of going, oh, great, I will call them now, call the person who referred you, jump on that phone and ask them, hey, look, why are they moving? What do you know about them? Give me some details. And that'll help you to get to the impertinent information, like what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And frankly, I've had some deals where I found out why they were moving, and one didn't make sense that they were moving. And not that I discouraged them from moving, but the fact that we actually cared to solve their problem and didn't just try to, sell them a house. Now, don't get me wrong. I love it when the solution is buying a new house, because I'm a realtor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Naturally, like, that's our favorite. But when you look at them as a person instead of just as a transaction, that goes really, really far with people, I found.
I would maybe suggest one thing when you're calling the person who referred you and say, hey, when you did refer me, how did you refer me? What did you say?
Oh, I like that one. That's a conversation that it's been on my reason to call list. When I'm doing my phone calls, I usually have a reason. And actually, I picked this piece up from Mike Gandolfo. He was on the show recently, kind of leading with the personal stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get in, hey, you just popped into my mind, instead of saying, I'm calling to invite you to the party. Hey, you just popped into my mind, just thinking about you, how the kids, what's going on, you got any travels, all the good things. Get the information, get them talking, because that's where you're going to hear things, and then kind of tell them why you're calling. But that's one that I've done and recently, and I need to do it to finish that campaign. So I'm glad you said that. I will definitely.
I mean, when you call your friends or you call your family members, your cousins, I mean, do you really have a true real estate conversation every time? I think it's just no, exactly right. And I think that becomes part of the fear, the call reluctancy is the fear of not knowing what to say. And it's like, you don't have to say anything. Like, do you know how nice it is to be recognized and heard? And the number of times I've heard people say, gosh, I really needed, this call today, or, hey, I'm thinking about you in a text and you don't understand how much I needed that today. I think we take that for granted because we are surrounding ourselves with a number of people in our business and the community that we have. Not everybody has that same support system and situation. So being thought of and, understood or heard, it's a game changer just in life in general. And that's a big thing why I love this business is I have created and maintained a ton of relationships. Whether I profit from them in a business sense or not, don't really care. It is the fact that, hey, I've created some really cool friendships, and and I'm thankful for that. That's the important thing at the end of the day for me is that, man, I have an army of people that I can count on and trust me for whatever that is.
So going into that, so you've got these relationships. So how are you adding people to your database? Do you have anything in particular, or just kind of past clients, that sort of thing, and it's organic?
I think that's probably been, if I could reset and move back 20 years ago, I would definitely stay as motivated to getting as many people in my database as possible. And also understanding that not everybody's going to be a referral source for you. And not everybody's going to want that quote unquote deep friendship that we concentrate on. But I have to ask myself, is it okay for me just to be the realtor they trust
Mm-hmm.
when the need or a family member's, need is available?
Right.
And a lot of times, when we're going through and evaluating our database, or at least for me, is I'm like, gosh, they haven't responded to me. They haven't texted. They don't come to any client parties. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have all of that. But when they have a need, and it may be 10 or 12 years,
Yeah.
because people are going to make 2 or 3, maybe 4 moves in their lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
is it okay for me just to understand? So removing people from my database I wouldn't have done it as expeditiously as I
Right.
might have in the past. So I'm literally re-adding those people back, understanding that I can personally probably serve these clients better than other agents are through my experience, my care, and
But you also
that's
did a good job, right? Like you did a good job. They remember that they just don't need you right now. They just
yeah,
don't, and you can only have so many best friends, and they can only have so many best friends. And there's
yeah.
certain people that are like, I go to the store when I'm hungry. Like I don't go
Yeah.
there to hang out. You know what I mean? And so I
Mhm.
agree with you. I mean, they fall down into the sea level, and no matter what, I make that phone call, I make that text, I stop taking people out. The one thing that I have done that I've shifted, and I don't even remember who I got this from. It was probably from several people. Is just the A plus, like trying. A plus is somebody who gives you multiple homes generally, like right. So the
Mhm.
old church lady, that could be an A plus. So for me, an A plus is somebody whose business it is to get rid of real estate. So A's are where I would drop that lady down. So an estate attorney might be an A plus, a builder might be an A plus, just because they're in that industry and they're in a better position. The other thing that I've paid attention to is kind of like what kind of who we treat them all the same as people for sure, but not within your business.
Mhm.
Like if you've got somebody who is in a position, or maybe they run with a higher price point that you're chasing, or they live in a neighborhood that's near your neighborhood, or you have something in common with them, and they're in a position to 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 create better referrals for you, we need to pay attention to that because that lady's very sweet and she gives me five $200,000 deals, or the higher end person gives you $1 million or $1.3 million listing. Don't lie to yourself. The $1.3 million one is more important, and they're more connected, and they're going to be do a better job of being able to refer just because they are in that position. It's kind of like they're influential people because they have those tools, not because they have more money, but that's just the truth of it.
Mhm.
That's how you get to that level. And I think paying attention to that and kind of reorganizing our database to get to that, I think is important. Is that something that you found, or you're not at all?
Absolutely. So my personal goal is to say, how do I get a C to a B to an A, and A to an A plus? So if
Mm-hmm.
you make that a true game, that just means I need to continue to add more people as C's. People I don't know whether or not they would
Mm-hmm.
refer me. And, we should have a deadline of, 90 to 180 days. If they're not responding to, getting all the contact information, if they're not really, if we met somebody and we're friends on Facebook and you'd send them a DM and say, hey, it's been a long time to connect. I'm glad that we've got a chance to be friends, and start a conversation or try to attempt to create a conversation that way. And if they're just kind of non-responsive, then that C goes to a D, and that's okay. But we just have to figure out the science behind of adding more C's, and then worry about getting the C's into B's, B's into A's, and then so on and so forth.
So how are you adding your C's then?
We do it through Facebook. Be seen. Be seen. So there's a ton of things that happen. Whether it's you're going to a hockey game, I don't care if it's professional or if it's a very
Mm-hmm.
amateur
Yeah.
league. Go be seen. Be the first one there and be the last one to leave. Go out there and really make yourself seen, known, heard. Go be the first person. Never. the thing that I guess I always do. Danny, if we met 4 times, I'm still going to walk up to you and say, "Hey, Danny, George Raptis." I don't even want to take the chance that you can't remember my name. I'm going to, be thrilled to meet you, but again, just be a little bit more humble and introduce myself again over and over again. Oh, George, of course I know you. We've met a number of times. Yeah, it's just been a long time. How you been? How's the family? And then the science behind it is if you're going to ask somebody to be in your database, they need to know why. What's the benefit of being in your VIP program, your client database? I mean,
Right.
What is it? How can you articulate that in 30 to 60 seconds to say, hey, this is the reason why? I mean, if you had a friend or family member that had a real estate question that you needed a truthful, honest answer, do you have someone that you can rely on? That's who I want to be. Do you when you have upgrades or changes in your house, do you have someone like a concierge? Because that's what I want to be, is your concierge, so I can provide you the resources and referrals that I have in my system to get you a great experience.
So you go straight mayor campaign, and then you add
Oh,
the
100%.
caveat of you add the caveat of the concierge service.
100%.
Well, I mean, it's like Brian says, say it the way I said it. And like I said it all these different ways to figure out the best way, so you don't have to, right?
Yeah,
Like I like that. Yeah, no, and that should be able to roll off your tongue. Like
sure.
absolutely, you should be able to. Like that should be. You should have said it enough times that you can say it without batting an eye, and it's automatic.
Yeah,
And then getting them to opt into your database also is, I think, is important.
yeah,
Like I've had agents where they're like, yeah, I just I ran into Susie, and I'm like, does Susie know you're putting her in the database, or is this like a sneak attack? You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm
No,
doing
yeah,
the real estate to you, haha. Like if
yeah,
that works, shoot, I get the phone book, just start typing them in, but it doesn't. Like what
yeah.
we have is relationships, and that's the only reason why anybody responds to this. So if they don't want the real estate done to them, for lack of a better term, it's not going to happen. So
Like,
I think
oh,
that's
Danny, I wish I would have saw you last week. We're giving away 5 gift certificates for Valentine's Day. We have 5 different restaurants with 5 RSVPs on Valentine's Day from 5:30 to 6:30. So, and we are randomly pulling from our database. And I wish I would have had a chance to get you in there, get you in my database. I could have, pulled your name, and that's just some of the fun stuff that we do. So it may be something that is also a little different on how we celebrate our clients on a regular basis.
Ooh, give me some more examples on that. That's interesting. I like that. That's like the I will I will I'll bail you out. Like you could almost call all the husbands and be like, "Did you make well, I got you.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Uh,
Show up here."
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like one of my clients was doing for Mother's Day. He literally, not clients, one of the other agents we talked to. He does his pop by his flowers for Mother's Day. And I was telling him, I said, man, you're doing it all wrong. You're upsiding the dude. You need to call him and be like, hey, I got you covered. It's on the porch. There's a blank card. Just write your name in it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I think that's funny.
I
Um,
do that with my higher end, my A pluses, and
mhm.
typically, if you start breaking down your A pluses and your A's, maybe even B's, you're going to see the correlation of people. So there's going to be a group of maybe 2 or 4 or 6 couples, and what I'll do is I'll start a text thread with the guys and say, hey, I'm sure you guys have not done date night properly in a long time. Good news. Let me know a date of these 3 or 4 that works for everybody. I'm going to do reservations. We're going to get the girls dressed up. We're going to meet at the restaurant. We're going to have some great drinks, some fun, some laughter. And it's all on me. And that's how I treat a lot of my A pluses. And we're at a restaurant, we're having fun. Sometimes the bill can get a little outrageous, but it's still,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's a lot of fun, and they appreciate that. And I was able to break down that Buffini system and correlate some of the best transactions, the best refers in that because of that one-on-one time that we're able to share.
See, I like that. We've been even toying with like we call it charcuterie potluck because it started my office as a rooftop patio on Monument Avenue, which is like a really nice, prestigious street, in Richmond. That's where all the monuments were until they took them down recently. But anyway, what we would do is like literally, I would call people and had nothing to do with real estate, and I'd be like, everybody bring something, anything, like you know, one would bring cheese and one would bring meat, and we just go up there and I'd buy a bunch of wine, and we just hang out, and it was just something fun, and I got more transactions from that, and then you could because everybody was paying for themselves, and they're generally higher end people. Then we started booking like other adventures and other excursions, and like where me and my assistant would do the research, and we'd say, all right, the canal boat runs through downtown, and we've got you know a wine expert. I can't think of the fancy name for it, uh, which my wife would be embarrassed by this by right now. Good thing she doesn't listen. Mom, don't tell her. But you know what I mean. You'd have the sommelier. That's the word. You'd have them come and like do the wine, and you'd buy, the charcuterie up front, and then you kind of broke it down into per person price, and everybody pays for it, and you go on this epic adventure, and now you have something to talk to them about, right? Client parties are great, and you need those, but you need those to make the phone calls, right? But when you have your A plus and kind of dividing those up, and then inviting them to something special that they couldn't just go pay for. You know what I mean? I think that's important. Now you've got something that when you call and you go, man, the charcuterie was amazing. The canal boat, that thing was so cool. We should definitely do something like that again. And what I've got built now is that they're suggesting them to me. Like they're literally going out of their way to call me to invite me to cool stuff. And sometimes it's all the clients again, that from that group, like you mentioned. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's new people that are on that price point. And the question always comes up, where do you guys know each other from? I'll let him tell you.
Common denominator, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then, it comes out that you're the realtor, and, and they're kind of usually get, my realtor doesn't do that for me. I said, sounds like you need a new realtor. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's kind of the joke. But no, I like that. I think that's really cool. Like you said, figuring out who your A pluses are and spending your time and attention there.
Yep. And don't forget about everybody, because you're ultimately, you have the opportunity to put more A pluses in play, or at least more A's into play. Right. A pluses are a rare breed. Yeah, that is something that obviously everybody knows. But you could definitely have more A's, and then those are coming from the B's.
But I'm finding that you can create the A pluses, but you don't create them as in turn them one into the other. You're finding somebody who is an A plus and strategically going after them, which is something that I hadn't done before. Don't get me wrong, the back end, the system is still running in the background. We're still doing client parties. Everybody's still getting calls, notes, pop-bys. I am not saying don't pay attention to them. But I was talking to Daniel Parrish and Greg Chaplin and Jeremy Walsh, and I'm doing the name drop thing again. And all of those guys, that was what I got from them was you're spending your time on who calls you back as opposed to choosing who you want to work with. So, for example, an estate attorney, they have the opportunity to hand you well-priced. These people bought this house a long time ago. They've got a lot of equity. A lot of times the owners are from out of state. They don't know an agent. And the attorneys are happy to work with somebody who's going to get it done because they don't get paid until they clear the estate. And so how do we get them to pay attention to us? We give them business. Like we go out of our way. We use our network, which is actually more fun because I've already asked all these people if they want to buy or sell a house. They know that already. But I mean, and the estate attorney thing, everybody needs one. We had Peggy on here, and you should listen to her episode, by the way. She was awesome. Not for me, but for her. But her point was, if you have an asset like a house or a family, you should have a will and you should have a trust. So you need to go and talk to the estate attorney. So every single person in our database, and you can have that conversation by going there yourself. That's how you meet the attorney. Do yours, because you may or may not have it, right? And then you learn something, and then you call them, and when you're talking to them anyway, you go, hey, is this something you looked at? Because I just did it personally, and I didn't realize that I needed it, but went through a few things, and you tell them a little bit about what you went through and all that stuff. And before you know it, they're like, yeah, absolutely, make that introduction. Now, you introduce them to 2 or 3 people, you're their guy. They're paying attention to you all of a sudden. But I think that's cool. Same thing with builders. Like you have the family that's a builder. How do you get a builder to work with you? Do you have any system towards that?
So my relationship with not my relationship, my uncle had passed away a number of years ago. So unfortunately he's not building anymore and with us. But I think if we're looking at new construction specifically, I think a lot of agents go in and say, okay, this is what the builder could do for me. It can provide me a spec. It could provide me, how about we reverse that?
Yes.
And say, this is what, asking the builder, what are your expectations? What are your desires? What are your needs at the moment? And this is how we can fulfill those opportunities. Hey, I'm not here just to sell this spec. I hope for every spec home that goes up and I have not a chance to list and sell, is that I'll have enough time that we will be able to sell one or two of these in addition to the one that you just put up. I mean, I think, so understanding and realizing the needs of the builder is really what's there. So no different than a client.
Well, you go even further. So what I've done to pick up builders is I've offered them products that they couldn't get otherwise. So every builder needs lots. That's what they need. They need land, especially if you're not Ryan Homes or one of the production builders, you need land. So what I've done is I've got a couple of kind of more rural, smaller builders, and I will find rural land by tracking that, and I'll go and get that. And what we do is what we call a ghost listing. So I'll go to a seller who's overpriced their lot, and I'll say, I can get you that money, but here's how I'm going to get it for you. My builder will find a buyer to build that house, and then they'll take that lot down. What builder in America is going to go, no, I don't want another opportunity to have something else on the market? If you're bringing them that, and now the bigger builders, you go to them and you say, hey, what do you have to be interested in these lots? And so now you're looking for a builder that's big enough that they either do the development or they've got somebody who does the development. So in my town or where we're at, I will go to that builder and I find out. So I need to get a survey and I need a price. That's essentially, I need to make sure all the heirs are in agreement, because usually that's why it doesn't sell. Again, you can use your real estate or your estate attorney leaning back on these guys and go, look, we need to find all these heirs. Can you guys help me do all the paperwork on this? And they make money off that. So now the estate attorney's happy with me. The real estate attorney's happy with me. I find this land, I get the survey, and if I can bring it to that builder, and literally I'm bringing it to him instead of to the developer, because I'm saying, look, I want this to come through you so that way we can leverage this into you getting lots. And I know the developers that already are developing 2 or 3 subdivisions, and I'm like, you want to go to him and not him, because I'm going to try to get you into these ones he's already doing in addition to the one we just brought in. Again, you had it right. What can we do for you? Not what, oh, I'm going to do the open house. Everyone's going to do the open house. Trust me. Like, you know what I mean? But if you can get them opportunities for them to make money, people care about 2 things. They care about what they do all day, every day, which is literally their business, and they care about their family. They will do more for their kids than they would do for themselves. That's what I have figured out. So if you're hitting either of those 2, that's where you're going to get their attention, because we are fighting for their attention. We are not fighting, for their their dollars necessarily. The dollars come with their attention, but if they can pay attention to us, I will tell you, nothing makes a builder call you back faster than if you're feeding them land.
100%.
Like, nothing. We even went one step further, and we're designing what is called a ADU here. So I really like zoning rules. Like, I'm a big fan of them. We figured out something called a BZA, which allows you to use the setbacks from when the community was originally started. So I originally started out looking for 60-foot lots with a house on one side, right? And so what you would do is you would go and use that setback. We'd buy the house, we'd flip it, we'd chop that lot, and then we would use that lot as a ghost for a builder. But now I'm having one of my builders, and they're designing an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit. Well, why this is really cool is because in our area, all of the young people that are first-time home buyers, they can't afford to live in these areas because they live in these areas because they have all these roommates. But the ADU, that small apartment on the back, you tell the lender, I'm going to live in the ADU and I'm going to rent out the house. Now I can use those roommates' income, and all of a sudden they qualify for, maybe $100,000 more, and I've moved them up to a price point. And you think that's how you get people to tell people about you. You do things that no one else thought of. The builder is happy because the ADU gets them an extra $100,000 per unit, because it's a duplex. And the way these things are appraised, which I think is really cool, is they're appraised against other ADUs. So they're not appraised against the single family houses. And they use the rental income to determine the price, just like you would on an investment. So you do your research on the front end. We find the ADUs that are being rented for the most money because they're the new builds. And then you hand the appraiser these property managers. You made his job easier. Why wouldn't he take your stuff? And all of a sudden, I don't have an appraisal issue either. And we're in neighborhoods that are in transition, and we're able to build brand new product where no one else thought we could. But again, you bring that kind of thing to a builder, then they have the slam dunk one that they found on their own. They're like, oh, I'm already talking to you. Let's give that to you too. But yeah, that's
So it
really
sounds like you
pretty cool.
just did the right thing. It sounds like you did work. I think that's what we
Yeah.
forget that we need to do at times is work, figure out, use our brains, and create opportunities for others.
Yes.
Love them and create opportunities. Yeah.
Which is that is all the way across the board what we do.
Hmm.
Like whether it's for your residential clients when you give them, the Valentine's reservation, or whether it's a builder. I just found that when I concentrated on the A plus people whose business it is to sell real estate, they give you, a subdivision with 20 instead of like their best friend, who needs to sell one house.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, those are A's.
Hmm.
They're still very high on my list. I'm going to spend a lot of attention on them. They just can't be A pluses,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's big. And the other thing that I would say to a newer agent is don't spend so much time on the work, as we were calling it, to go after these pie in the sky guys that you forget about your current people. So I mean, we got to put them into three pools, right? You got the hot, the warm, and the current, and then you've got everybody else. But the people that are working with you currently, we need to be staying in touch with them. We need to concentrate on them, and then time block that out. These 2 hours I'm going to spend chasing the current business, right? The buyer that needs you to find them a house. Again, doing the work. But you spend 2 hours on that, and then you jump to the prospecting. Like I literally had a point, and I'm on a tangent, like it's an interview of me. But I had a tangent where I thought that getting the referral was more important than doing the business. Like I literally was doing, and this is a little guilty. And this was a couple of years ago, but I was doing one of the essentials trainings, and he's like, "Which one's more important? Which rocks do you put in first, right? The whole analogy with the sand and the rocks and the water." And I found myself thinking, "Oh, you do your lead gen calls; those are first." No, they're not first. What's first is actually selling the house you're currently. These people have hired you. Now, as our teams grow, and as we systemize, maybe we're not having to pay as much attention to that. Like my assistant sets up the home inspections now. My showing agent goes to them, and then I come to the last half hour to hear the summary. But it's still, we need those. That is the top priority. Whoever hired you and is trusting you with their money, we need to take care of them first. That was just a revelation that I had, which I thought was really sad that I needed that revelation, but I thought it was cool. But yeah, but
I think
all
that's pretty common. So I wouldn't be beat up on yourself because we do people find different values there. And it was a conversation with my son at a soccer game. I was trying to figure out how to put this, and it's like, hey, you got to do your job, but you also have to get paid. So how do you actually when evaluating his soccer, is he gets paid when he scores his goal? But his job is to create opportunities, get open, create the
mhm.
opportunity to shoot, but you have to score because that's how you get paid. And all of a sudden I kind of looked at my business as well. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing my job and I'm doing it well, but am I actually getting paid? Am I completing what I am asked to do? So yeah, no, Danny, I think that's exactly right.
I think you nailed it. I like that analogy, and that will probably be the short for the show, by the way, which I will send you. The
Right.
No, I think you just nailed that. I think that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending so much time with me. I really appreciate everything you shared. I think everyone's going to love that. But before you go, can I grab a couple of these fun questions? What is your favorite quote?
I didn't come this far to get this far.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. It's like, yeah, I like that one. What's your biggest takeaway from an event?
Um,
And it can be any event. It doesn't have to be Buffini. It doesn't even have to be real estate.
yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway from the events is understanding that it's the one-on-one time. You spell love with Time.
Mm-hmm.
We've probably heard that, but it's so true. It's so true. So understanding that that's what that is, and that the meaning behind it is important.
I think that's cool, and I think that's also true. I've never we get a ton from the stage, right? The guy talking on the stage absolutely says stuff, and that's cool. But really, where the work is done is me and you bumping into each other at the airport, waiting for our plane together, and having that conversation in between the events, right?
Yeah.
That's where you're actually making that relationship type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I encourage you to meet us in the lobby, at 3 or 4 in the morning before our planes take off. And, we try to get together and have conversations at times. So, yeah, if you ever see us in the lobby, join us.
Absolutely. No, I think, like I said, I think that's what's really cool about it. I also, we're very lucky to be in the community we're in and to be able to reach out and to such high quality people and have them take time out of their super busy schedules to jump on somebody's podcast. My dad's going to love this, by the way. Like, great.
Good,
Mom's a little tough. I'm just going to warn you up front. I mean, she'll like the Greek part. So you got an in there. So you're good. You're good.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for doing it, man. I really appreciate you, and we're definitely going to stay in touch. Before we go, though, tell everybody the market you serve and how they can get a hold of you for their referrals.
All right. So Fort Wayne, Indiana, we're the northwest side of Indiana. Our big market is actually we have a great GM plant here. Hospitals is the big thing that we're growing. We're pulling a lot of hospitals and doctors from Illinois, Michigan, Ohio. Tend to be a little bit more not insurance friendly, more of a blue state, and hospitals enjoy that they can plan and work a little bit better in our area. So that's been our biggest employer over the last 3 or 4 years. But George Raptis, RAPTIS 260-710-1834 is my cell. Referrals or just general questions. And, if we see each other at one of them peaks coming up or something like that, please, if there's a question, I'd love to help.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll definitely be
Danny.
staying in touch. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to apply this information to your business immediately. This message will not self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, agents.